Let's hear from Ivory and hear what your takeaways are and why Kansas City applied.
Sure. So our story in Kansas City is a little bit different from Des Moines, but we do have a lot of shared industries and things like that, you know, being both amazing Midwestern cities. But for Kansas City, we had a few economic issues that we were addressing on a local level. Kansas City has had decreased productivity, decreased wages. Our economy had lost market share to the overall contribution to GDP in the United States. Our employment levels had not completely reached pre-recession levels. And exports as share of GDP for Kansas City was 2 percentage points behind, and they still are now, even that gap is behind a little bit more of the national average. So essentially Kansas City, you know, had a lot of things going on, and that's really because of several issues. Two of our largest industries have had a lot of technological advances. So printing being one, obviously digital media is such a bigger piece of the economy now. And then also with telecom, there's been a lot of changes within that industry as well. So we saw a lot of that over the last 20 years really change for us. And so working in partnership with Brookings and really being a part of this Global Cities Initiative really helped us reflect more on some of the issues that are affecting us on a local level, and then also prepare for the future of how we can become more competitive and gain some ground in some of those areas. So what we decided is, you know, we really wanted to take a really tangible, tactical role as it pertains to the businesses in our community on how we can help them export. And Kansas City is unique in that we straddle a state line. So we have, you know, a few counties in Missouri and then several in Kansas, where, you know, whenever you're dealing with two different state governments in your one region, you know, it really took a lot of collaboration and communication on us finding, you know, common ground and how we're going to make things better for, you know, the businesses and ultimately the talent within our communities. Kansas City actually currently has a lot of positive things going on, despite some of these economic larger indicators. We do have net migration, and we do have a younger median age of those who are employed. So we do have some strengths there, and we also do in the logistics and transportation industry, as you guys know. So we have infrastructure to get product out. We have folks here who are interested in being employed in the warehousing and distribution sector. But, you know, we need companies to be more engaged and more globally fluent on a day-to-day level of how they can have that confidence to move forward and engage an international customer. So the ultimate question is like, okay, well, who are these companies? Where are they? Where are they located? How do we get connected with them? How can we help them feel more confident about their activity as they consider international? Because ultimately business, you know, it's risk adverse. You know, you want to make sure that, and even in the Midwest, and I'm sure Ryan, maybe you encountered this a little bit with your interviews that you had with companies in Des Moines, but you know, it's the whole like don't lose the farm mentality. You know, they don't want to. A lot of companies were just like, international, that just seems so, you know, out there. But, you know, from everything that we do, the cars we drive, the gasoline we put in our car, the phones we're using, you know, there has been a global influence. And so it's really how do we get companies to feel more confident? And so what we decided is, and what we learned from Kansas City's through our interviews and things like that, is that Kansas City companies just really aren't really thinking about international. And if they were thinking about international, they didn't know like who to go to and where to get started. So it kind of goes back to the slide that Merrick showed earlier about what basically the common themes are for a lot of metro economies. And so we decided that we needed to find these, at a minimum, 100 companies in Kansas City that are interested in international and connect them to the export assistance providers in Kansas City. And so what we were able to do is create something called the Export Concierge. here's a brochure that we have. And our local economic development agencies, they're able to take this on their BRE calls, like Ryan mentioned in Des Moines, and they're able to promote the program that we have created in Kansas City at the World Trade Center, where it's just, you know, the first entry point for a company to have an introduction to an export assistance provider in our region. Like I mentioned, we are a bi-state region, so we have to be pretty honest and open about, you know, okay, if you're a Missouri-based company, if you're a Kansas-based company, these are the resources that are available to you in your respective community. So, so we connect them to the resources. You know, if they're new to export, how do they get that training to kind of gain on the information curve of how they can learn more about how to get started exporting. And then there's companies who are new to market. And so we set out with this goal in our export plan to have 100 companies, you know, referred to export assistance providers. We announced our plan in April of this year. We are already working with 40 companies. Half of them are new to market and half of them are new to export. So that means, and getting really to the theme of this webinar is, you know, those new to export companies, we are getting them linked up with the different resources in Kansas and in Missouri, depending on obviously where they're located, with getting an export business plan prepared. Because, you know, like a city, which is so different from a business, yet we still have, you know, those strengths and those weaknesses that we need to be, you know, real and need to address. You know, we need a plan for the future. And so we help these businesses, get them involved and refer to clients to a provider who can help them create a business plan specific to them and their needs and how they can go international. And the same thing with us, with this export business plan in Kansas City. You know, it's really helping Kansas City, you know, become more globally engaged, and everyone benefits. And in fact, yesterday, I would say that one of the largest takeaways we were able to have is I met with a bank here in town that, you know, is really kind of becoming more involved with what we're doing. And they're excited because, you know, they provide only banking services. But, you know, they come into contact with businesses that have interests in accounting and, you know, freight forwarding and taxes and things like that, where they're like, we don't provide that service. How do we get companies that we're working with to know more about those sorts of issues? Can we refer them to you for that service? I'm like, absolutely. So it's really, we become not only a provider at the World Trade Center to our economic development agencies and those on a government level who are influencing economic development, but then those who are in our community that are already providing business services to also feel confident in referring clients to us, that we can help them in whatever area they may also have as an area of need. So we didn't realize that it was really going to take off. We're only working at this point with 4 economic development agencies in our community. We have a total of 18. So the 14 other economic development agencies will come on board in January. So we think the floodgates will open, and at which point we don't want the bandwidth of our organization to really get stressed out. But, you know, we are so excited to see that there's so much interest, and that really we're able to influence some folks and feeling more confident in going into this area. So many thanks to Brookings and all the wonderful work you guys and your team has given us. And it's so great to hear also the similarities between our communities in Des Moines and Kansas City, you know, being only 3.5 hours away from each other. So thank you so much for allowing us to talk here today. I guess we have some questions possibly.
Yeah. So I do want to point out that about 75% of the companies that are on this call are already exporting. So I don't know whether or not that's 1 to 10 a year, or if they're looking at expanding their markets. But obviously you guys now know that you guys can easily contact Ivory or Ryan, and they can help you move forward with an export plan if you're looking to get into a new market.